Greetings, Star Citizens, and welcome to another beautiful day in the verse. Now, first of all, I want to apologise if I sound rough. I have been extremely ill over the past week. I'm still somewhat ill, but it's passing. It's leaving my body, but I do still sound a little bit rough. But I wanted to get this video out there because 2.6 is most likely just around the corner, and the topic I want to talk about today for Let's Talk is the 2.6 flight model change. So for those that don't know, for those that had missed the sort of, I think it was around the verse or reverse the verse, I can't remember which one it was shown on, but it was one of those. It was something around the verse, and they discussed that in 2.6, the flight model is going to take another drastic change. Now, this isn't new for Star Citizen. It's taken drastic changes in the past, and obviously it's to be expected. They're trying to find the happy medium. They're trying to find the comfort zone where the flight is fun and enjoyable, but it's not too intimidating. It's not too difficult for new players to get into and to pick up and practice. And a lot of people get deterred away from the flight model. You might find it unusual, but there are people that get put off the game entirely because of flight model, because they think they suck at the game because it's so unfair on them, especially if they're trying to do racing in sort of the faster ships like the M50. It is just unbearable for some people, and it will put them off. So the changes that they are making is they are reducing the speed. I think they said by roughly half the current speed for the SCM, as well as doubling the acceleration. And they will do this for all ships. I believe some ships they may fine tune and they may give a slight special treatment to certain ships, but generally it's going to be a half of every speed, or the SCM speed at least, and a doubling of the acceleration, or at least that was the starting point. They've probably fine-tuned it by the time we get 2.6, and it'll be a little bit more specific. It'll be a little bit more precise than just a rough halving and a doubling. But essentially this is going to make ships a lot less drifty, and that is the biggest thing that they're trying to accomplish with that. Is they don't like the amount that ships drift, because this poses two problems. One, it sort of promotes bad dogfighting tactics where people are just constantly in jousts with each other or circle strafing each other. They don't really implement any true tactics into it because they don't feel the need to, or they end up naturally drifting, so they just go with the drift. And the other thing, which I'm a little bit 50-50 about, is it makes racing somewhat difficult to get into. It takes a lot of practice to try and master the drift and try and figure out the way the ship works. And to a lot of people, that is, like I said before, off-putting, and they will just give up trying to race because they'll see themselves as bad at it. But in reality, they're not bad. It just takes a lot of practice and a lot of repetition to master that drift. And reducing the drift is obviously going to make racing a lot more accessible to people, which on the one hand, I would like to see racing more accessible, because at the moment it is somewhat of a niche aspect of the game. There aren't that many people racing, and if you try to get into certain tracks, you just don't get into them because there's so few people racing, and you see the same faces over and over again, because it is just a niche aspect of the game, like I said, because it is so difficult to get good at it, so at the moment, of course. On the other hand, I dislike it. So I like that it's going to bring more people in, but I also don't like the fact that it's going to be easier. Because one of the things that I enjoyed about racing, and I still enjoy, is that it takes a lot of practice. It's something you can be proud of when you eventually do master that corner that you've been trying to master for hours and hours and hours. And in my case, I was trying for weeks and sort of breaking onto the verge of months before I got somewhat good at it. And I'm still not really good at it. I'm still nowhere near the top. I'm not even top 100. And I've been racing for a few months now. Now, granted, I've not been doing it exclusively. I've not been hardcore practicing just on racing. I've been doing a lot of Vandal Swarm. I've been doing a lot of the universe. But I've been sort of doing it every now and then. Every couple of days, I'll do it for a few hours. And I'm still not really good. I can get around the track without crashing, but I still can't do it quick. And like I said, this change will definitely make it a lot easier to race. Now, for the people that have been practicing for the whole of 2.4 and 2.5, it's probably going to make it a bit difficult to begin with because obviously they've got used to that flight model. They got used to how that flight model worked with the track, and now they're going to have to learn it all again. But like I said, nobody is a stranger to these changes, especially the racing community, because it's happened before, and changes like this affect the racing community more than anything else. I mean, the combat in this case is going to get drastically affected, but really the only people that are going to truly notice it is the racers, because combat-wise, you're still going to fight in the same sort of way. You're not really going to have to relearn how to dogfight. If you're already fairly good at dogfighting, you're not really going to have to remaster anything. You're just going to have to implement some new strategy. So if you was one of the people that jousted all the time or just circle strafe, you might not be able to pull that off, because another thing is it's going to be a lot easier to be a good dogfighter. It's going to be a lot easier to implement better tactics into your dogfighting and more advanced tactics into your dogfighting. And overall, it's going to make people better at dogfighting. It's going to be easier to get better at dogfighting. It's going to be easier to fly in general. And from what most people that have tested it have said, it's all been overwhelmingly positive. Now, another thing, going back to racing and the effects that it would have on racing, I personally think that an interesting way of doing it would be to have the racing sort of ships somewhat unrestricted, like you get in real life. In real life, you don't really get the same restrictions on a racing car, like a GTR car or a Formula 1 car, that you would on a road car. And I think it would be interesting to have a somewhat unrestricted mode for those racing ships, where they throw safety out of the window and they go full performance. But then obviously people would get into the debate of why do military ships limit themselves if racing ships don't, because from a military standpoint, you'd also want the full performance, and I wouldn't say no safety, but safety wouldn't be as much of an issue. If you was talking a full military fighter ship, you would want the most performance that ship could get, and maybe they could implement it into racing ships. But obviously, nobody really has military ships in Star Citizen, because that's one thing that we cannot have. We are not military personnel, we are civilians. We have civilian ships. The Hornet that we can fly is the civilian variant of a military ship, and nobody, as far as I'm aware, can have and ever will have a military ship in Star Citizen. Possibly in Squadron 42, but when it comes to Star Citizen, we are citizens, not military personnel. But that about sums it up for this video. I apologise that it's short, but like I said at the beginning, I am feeling rough still. Even though I'm getting better, I am still rough, and making this video was a lot harder than it may seem. It may seem short, but there is a lot of time gone into just the voice aspect of this video because of all the coughing in between. You probably won't notice it, but you might notice some odd transitions if there's sort of a transition where I'm just silent, or if the audio doesn't quite match up, then that's where I had to cut out a cough or a sneeze or something, and they are quite frequent. They are probably every minute or so, maybe even less than every minute. So I apologise if I do sound rough. I tried my best, and I wanted to get this video out for you regardless of how I'm feeling, because obviously I did promise I want to get more into a schedule, more into a routine, and essentially stop slacking so much. I want to be able to give you guys content on a regular basis. So hopefully you enjoyed this video regardless of my rough sounding voice, and I will see you guys in the next video. Laters taters.